All right. Well, just waiting for the
Hello. It is
hello.
live.
It's alive. It's alive.
It's alive. I'm alive.
Yes, yes, you are alive. Yes,
I
yes.
am.
So welcome everybody.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so glad to see you. You made it today, Fati, because you surprised me with a little text message yesterday.
Yep. I surprised you with a text message that was very appropriate to the subject today.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
yeah.
just for you guys, I have contracted coronavirus so that
Mm,
I could just show up and talk about it as I'm infected.
yes. Yeah.
Yep, I tested positive for COVID yesterday.
Hmm.
There's a huge surge in New York City, as you probably have all seen. It's been a little bit of madness going on in the city between people trying to get tested and get those results before their flights and or getting tested just to make sure that they don't have it. There's been like a huge surge and I'm one of those people that got it.
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? It feels like a cold, a very mild cold, I should say. Uh, I think it's definitely consistent with what they're saying that it's not as aggressive,
Hmm.
and so that's good, right? In that sense, I'm like, well, it's not the timing of it is not ideal given that it's Christmas in a few days, and now I'm quarantining with my kids. At the same time, I'm very fortunate that it's not affecting me that badly.
Hmm.
And it does really feel like a cold, and it will be over in a few days, and I'll have immunity. So I'll have that peace of mind as we go through this next wave. And so will a lot of people in the city, and I'm sure soon, in the rest of the country and the world, it seems like it's really moving fast. So,
Yeah, yeah. That's the only thing I kind of really heard about this Omicron, whatever you want to call it,
Omicron,
Omicron.
yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like something that you would find at a comic rally, comic store, like Marvel Studios. Uh, one of the superheroes. This one happens to be a superbug,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, it certainly has. I mean, it's done the same thing in Canada, and we've been watching the news out in the states too. That there's lots of surges. You know, they're saying that this one is definitely more catchier. It's easier to catch.
yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, yeah, like
Yeah,
and it and it's what it's been 22 months now that we've been sort of under this umbrella of a
22
COVID
months. Yeah.
umbrella pandemic. Um, and I know personally, there's been a lot of, going on with it. A lot of busyness in my head around it. Um, some of it is well, probably fear based, and some of it, it's just sort of like, well, it just got to see what happens, right?
Yeah.
You have two young kids, so
Mhm.
that kind of weighs a little bit in it. I have my dad that lives with us. He was 90, almost 92. It'd be 92 in March of next year. Um, and he's not the best of health. He's got a lung condition. He's got chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, and asthma. So if this COVID virus attacks the lungs, his lungs are not in the best of shape, right? So so I want to keep him safe, right? So
Of
there's always
course. Yeah.
those kind of things, right? I don't want to be that guy. It's
No,
like
but there's still, the highest the risk is for people that are older that have health conditions,
yes,
right?
yeah,
Actually, like from my experience, because living in New York City, I do know so many. Um, thank you, Ken. It's actually like a really mild cold. Like I
yeah,
keep saying this because it really is like a mild cold.
good.
Um, but from my experience, because I know, as I was telling you before we got on air, it is so widespread that I actually know directly so many people that have caught it, that have had it or they're just going through it right now. And oddly enough, again, the kids don't seem to be getting it. So there's
So
that.
the younger kids. Yeah.
Yeah, the younger kids don't seem
Yeah.
to be getting it. So my kids have zero, symptoms right now. They may still catch it or they may be asymptomatic. I'm gonna have to test them in a couple of days, but that part of it gives me peace of mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, really the hardest part about this is the quarantine is, as a single parent, I still have to take care of my kids. I had to keep them home.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I wasn't feeling great this morning. It's always like that, right? The night tends to be a little rougher. And I needed to rest a little bit longer this morning. And they still need to eat. They still need to do what they still have
Yeah.
needs. And they're healthy and energized and bored, right? So
Yeah.
that whole thing together is what's challenging. And we're wearing masks around each other, right?
Mm.
So
Are
constantly
you doing
having
that
to
in the house
in the apartment, yeah, because if they don't have it, I don't want to really expose them. I
yeah.
know I definitely have it, so that's really challenging. Makes it really hard for me to breathe because I have a runny nose,
Yeah.
and they forget. So it creates tension, frustration for them, and then they're upset because now they can't see their friends. They couldn't go to school. They had some, like before Christmas, events in school that they're not going to be attending. They're not going to be able to see their dad for Christmas Eve. So
Yeah.
they have a lot of feelings around this. And I think this kind of brings back really the focus on how tough this has been for parents, right? Because I'm the one that's sick and I'm the one who's still like juggling all this stuff while I have
Hmm.
COVID, right?
Hmm.
It's like
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
have COVID and I'm still managing all this stuff. It doesn't seem to really matter that I do, because they're
Yeah.
little and they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's the tough part. And really the fear response is certainly like not helpful, right? To be
No.
cautious is different than being fearful. And I think New York City has a very good reason to be a little bit traumatized because seeing a sudden surge like that really like put people back into the trauma what we went through in March of 2020, right, where the
Right.
where the city was just hit super hard and
Yeah.
we had no idea what was happening.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a lot that we could talk about in terms of how we make those mental connections even when the reality and the facts in the moment are not matching our past experience, right? But the past experience of so many people in the city is that, just sudden like whamming, like we got hit by this thing and people were dying and hospitals were overrun and
Yes.
we had
Yeah.
no idea what was going to happen. So really saw the moment that this news came out, that kind of reaction from people. Like it felt very eerie to be outside and like felt like a pre-lockdown type of vibe. And I was like, what am I missing? And it's funny because I was like, what am I missing? I need to catch up on the news. And I
Mm.
was probably already walking around with COVID, right?
Yeah.
Without
Yeah.
knowing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and a lot of for different reasons, because people don't want to miss out on their Christmas plans, or they want to be able to get that negative test to fly, or they don't want to be, they're just afraid of it for many different reasons. Like the reaction was super strong, and that's normal, right? That's a
Yeah.
human condition. That's how
Yeah.
most
Fight or
people
flight.
react.
Yeah.
Fight or flight, it's not necessarily the healthiest way to react to it. So for me, when we were talking that I told you I got COVID, I was like, you know what, I could just say like I'm sick, I'm not going to do this tomorrow. At the same time, I thought it would be a really good opportunity to come on here and kind of show up and be like, you know what, I'm in the thick of this, I
Hmm.
can talk, I'm fine. Like there is this version of reality too. Yes, some people get hit by it very hard, and with this version doesn't seem like that's many, so that we can kind of debunk a lot of the fear around it, because my reality is many other people's reality as well, so both things exist at the same time. So it's always about finding a balance with it, right? There's no like there's no universal like truths in reality. Like everyone is gonna experience this differently, and at
True.
the same time, it's good to not just go to 2020. It is not 2020, right?
It's not 2020. As a matter of fact, it's now. It's this moment,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
This moment, right? So if we continually look towards the past and it, at some of the solutions that we came up with then, they may not be accurate for what's happening now. And a perfect example happened yesterday with our conversation, right?
yeah.
It was sort of like I
Oh,
what's that?
sorry.
Hey, whoa!
I just realized what kind of cup I have. Anyway, well, that's kind of appropriate given that I'm taking care of my kids with COVID.
That is too funny. Too funny. Okay, well, that's the end of the show, folks. Appreciate it. That's it.
Sorry.
That's all you needed to know today.
That's okay. It's just an F and two asterisks and a K.
That's all it was, right? It had nothing to do with
Yeah.
whatever. But did you, but that, well, there's a perfect example, right? Because you're absolutely correct. That's exactly what it is. But because we're pattern recognition people, we know that okay, there's some missing letters there, and and they could probably spell whatever. The um
I mean, we all know what that means, but
the interesting part was and we do this innocently, and this is what I really want everybody to understand is that we have these natural tendencies within us, and we do these things innocently in the sense that we stir up our little snow globes in our head and get really busy with our thinking, right?
hmm
And last night when you had said, oh, it's like, oh, I've got COVID, and I go and all of a sudden I started getting busy, right? And I started
hmm
going, okay, well, tomorrow's that way. If she's not feeling well, we could, maybe we'll cancel. Should I do the show myself? It's like, whoa, where were you? It's like you weren't present, right? And as soon as the snow globe settled, and I think you said a couple of really calming kind of, and it wasn't. I don't want to get people's impression that I was running around like Ricky.
no, no, it was like literally 1 minute.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
But
yeah,
we settled, and it was like, wait a minute, why don't we just wait to see what happens? Let's just see what happens tomorrow. Like, what is the
yeah.
worst that could happen? We don't do the show. Big deal, right? So it we need to recognize that we're in the moment all the time,
hmm
and there's a set of reality right in front of us, but we naturally tend to go into this storytelling make believe world based on past experience that of what our future is going to look like, and
hmm
not realizing that we do have built into us some real time response mechanisms when we're not busy in our heads. I should get my tree upside the right way. Um, and we relax a little bit and then just see
Yeah,
what happens. Just see, like we got on, checked in just afternoon. I said, how you feeling? She says, you said, I'm feeling great. Good. We'll see you about 15 minutes. Yeah, great.
yeah.
Like, so much less energy in that, right? I was able to focus on other things, getting ready for Christmas, all that other kind of stuff, not worrying about, oh, are we going to have a show? Are we not going to have a show? Right.
But also, and being flexible. It's like, listen, obviously I'm sick, right? And I
Yeah.
can't give it to anyone through a screen. And I may need my tea with the, provocative writing on it and a lozenge. And, I may do that, which is it ideal? No, but who cares, right? That's
Yeah.
what I need to do to be here. And
Yeah.
it's worth it, right? Just to kind of make a point, right? That yes, you can still live and do things while you have this thing, and it can really be mild, right? And that's kind of the point that I wanted to make. But going back to the to the fight or flight. I had obviously that moment yesterday when I tested positive. I'm like, all the
Yes.
things that ran in my head. Oh my God, my kids are in school and I gotta call this, that, and I gotta figure out what to test. Blah, blah, blah. And the other thing, because there's this widespread panic going around here and people are about to travel, to go get tested is like 4 hour lines. So, like I had already decided, like, okay, there's no need for, I did this rapid test. It's an in-home kit. I've used them before in Europe. They're accurate. And like, it became positive right away. I have symptoms. So, I have this thing.
Yeah.
But obviously I wanted to go get like a molecular test, PCR test. And test my kids too. And like driven by this need to kind of get it done, I'm like, I'm gonna drive in deep in Brooklyn where probably no one's gonna be there. So I did that. Like 45 minutes, I go there and like the line is really long. And I'm like, oh, we drove 45 minutes, let's stand in line. So we're in line for like an hour and a half. We
Mm-hmm.
get to the point where we turn a corner and we find a surprise. The line was 2 times as long around the corner. So
Oh,
my kids are freezing. I'm like, I'm kind of ill
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
shouldn't be standing in the cold. And then, so I was like, you know what? There's no way I'm going to go talk to the guy because my kids were crying. No favors for kids. I'm like, that's such a New York attitude. I just looked at it, it's like I can give you some, rapid test if you want. I'm like, I would love that. Thank you. And
Right.
then, so he gives me the test, we leave. And then as I'm driving back, I'm like, that was really silly because honestly, if they were exposed to me on Monday, it makes no sense for them to get tested on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
and do like an hour. Like I know I have this thing, right? And in doubt, I'm still gonna quarantine
Yeah. Yeah.
even if it's not verified by a PCR test. And I just spent like 3 hours of our afternoon doing something because I was solely driven by the need to like calm down that fight or flight response, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna go get it done, let's see if they have it and what's gonna happen with Christmas. They're not gonna see their dad, and then what they're gonna be really upset. How am I gonna explain this to them? What am I gonna do with them,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
all these days? Like all of those thoughts, even if I had managed before to bring myself to a calm state, the moment that I picked up my kids and they reacted to it, my level of anxiety went up because I
Yeah.
responded to them and their
Yeah.
anxiety.
Yeah.
So a contagion right there, right? Social contagion, and from all the text messages I was getting from people, you should go here, you should go there, you should do this, here's another, like people were very kind and sending me places to go to, because right now it's just madness. Everywhere you go there's a line around the
Yeah.
building, it's just crazy. And I
Mm.
completely got sucked into it, and I realized it right after I stood up in the cold for an hour and a half, then got stuck in traffic on the way back.
Oh,
I was
oh yeah.
like, wow, that was a waste of my time.
Yeah. 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 But you noticed, right? I mean,
Yeah.
innocently we get wrapped up into it, right? Our feelings change. We notice a change. We want to do something about that, and we just get wrapped up in it. We just get wrapped up
Hmm.
in our heads, right? But when you start to relax, even for a moment, some clarity comes through, some
Yeah.
clarity, right? And a deeper understanding. But like we have really, I have no idea where all this is going, right? We're having the same experience up here. Things are wrapping up. um you know the only thing that I could say for certain about COVID itself is that when some people do get it, some people get, you know um live through it, and there are some that are dying through it, right? And I know if I start reacting from a fear based mode, right? It's like I have to keep reminding myself about that. Then it's a reaction as opposed to a real time response, right?
Hmm.
So, you know, and it's part of that is my training as a paramedic. Like, like we were taught like we don't predict what kind of a day we're going to have. We don't know what kind of calls we're going to have, whether they're going to be a trauma call or whatever. So every time we go out, it's unpredictable, even if we have some kind of inkling from dispatch what it is. But if we go in there with a clear mind in a calming way, right, we're first responders as opposed to first reactors.
Mm-hmm.
We respond in a more kinder way, in a more thoughtful way, using our intuition more, and then something just it's in the moment, but it's very much focused on what's happening this moment, not
Mm-hmm.
not tomorrow, not yesterday, but what's happening this moment, what needs to be taken care of now. And the more I have found personally, the more present I remain, the better I do. Simple,
Mm-hmm.
the better I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but
And listen, I think this is a good opportunity to just kind of go into, we talked a little bit now about the fear response, right? The fear response that's using the past experience, right, as a society, and creating, projecting into the future what may happen, right? That's a response that we're seeing right now, has to do with literally what
yeah,
we always do, right? By the way, we always do that in everyday life. And now as a society, there's a pattern of response to something that we have all collectively experienced, right? And so, that there's like another learning, there's another challenge, there's another, like opportunity to kind of really look at it and do, exactly what you were saying, like really slowing down and
hmm,
questioning everything, right? Because yeah, it's true that, and I get it that this new strain is very new. It just
yeah,
came out, so there's not enough data yet. But the trend seems to be that it's not aggressive at all, right?
yeah, yeah,
So bringing yourself back to what you know, right? Yeah, maybe we don't have data for the next 3 months, but we do have the data up until now, and it is actually encouraging, right? It's not it's not what it was with the other ones, and it's not really making people as sick as the other ones for what we know up until now. So based on that, like it is good news, right? If we can really stay with what we know, right now.
right now, and also knowing, and this is the part that gets kind of tricky for some people, because we operate so much from our memories. Like
Hmm.
so much. Like, I mean, because part of our way of surviving is that we trust our memories, right? I trust my
Hmm.
memory to provide me with the instructions on how to drive a car every time I get in the car, right?
Hmm.
So there are things within our memory banks that are important to us, in our daily lives. When things get out of kilter, and most of the things that get out of kilter, see, when I'm in a car, other than maybe traffic or whatever, but in the most cases, it's kind of a pleasant experience. Like, it's a no, I call it a neutral experience, right? There's nothing
Hmm.
really happening, right? And at those moments, nobody questions anything, right? It's like, yeah, things are just, look at the sun. Oh, look, it's whatever. Um, but the minute we sort of get a little bit of a rub into our feelings, most of it is coming from either, and it could be like an expectations not being met, or there's some kind of inconvenience, or just something, like, and it shows up like a feeling, like a something that's not sitting right. That's when that's when we start to look towards, okay, so what is causing all of this, what
Hmm.
is causing this, and we start, looking outside, right? It's like, oh, it must be that, it must be that. And we forget that everything is an inside out experience. So it's so much of what we are experiencing is really being self generated. But when we notice that, we can get quieter, right? We can get quiet, and then actually ask the question that you're saying is, okay, is what I'm seeing true or not true, right? Is it really a problem? Will that problem sit in a wheelbarrow? If it doesn't fit in the wheelbarrow, is it really a problem, right? I,
Hmm.
you know, and looking at it from a realistic point of view, because I find that other than being inconvenienced, there's a few things, the extra things you got to do. Oh, darn, I forgot my mask in the car. I have to go back and go get it. Little things like that. Um, a lot of things I've been enjoying. Like I remember when COVID first happened, and we'd walk out onto the streets and they were like empty, and there was some peace and quiet. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, wow, this is so weird. This is what it was used to be like 20 years ago living in this town, you know. And then as we got more comfortable with it, and understood more about it, then you start to see the busyness happening, and slowly it's like, oh, look at the traffic again. It's like we're back to normal,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Those two things you just mentioned were actually pretty like apocalyptic in a city like New York City, right?
Oh,
Not seeing anyone in the streets was like, wow, it almost scared you, right? Because it's
yeah,
like, what is happening? Like, when was the last time this city didn't have anyone in the streets like that, right? Or traffic. Like, I had gotten used to not hitting traffic anywhere I went,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And same thing when things normalized again, I was like, oh, I forgot about this. This sucks, right? So
But
yeah, I mean, it's but if we didn't have the ability to actually like be present, like with those moments where that was actually pleasant, we would
yeah,
miss out on it, right?
yeah. And you said I love the word normalizing, because I that's come
Mhm.
up a few times in some conversations I've had. It's like, like, oh, I can't wait till things go back to normal. Well, things have never been normal. Like in the sense of, like, define normal, right?
Mhm.
Back in 1883, there's a new show I just started to watch. It's like, back then, smallpox was thing, kind of a thing, and
Mhm.
and they didn't have a lot of hot water and all, so there's a lot of things that were normal in that time period. But
Mhm.
if we constantly look towards going back to normal, we're constantly living in a past. We're constantly living in a past, and we're not looking for growth. We're not looking for the potential of something fresh and new, right? So you know, open open up the window a little bit to maybe see something different, something, right, that
That's
who
such
knows?
a great point you just made. I love it because what normal does, like we're so used to normal because it keeps us in the know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it also keeps us stuck. That's the truth about normal. It keeps us the norm, like evolution that doesn't fit in normal,
No,
right?
no,
Because
no.
evolution is about constant change,
Constant change and growth.
right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I love that you pointed this out. Is so true. And like, and I think, going back to, because I think the subject of our conversation was like, in what ways were people affected by Corona and how this has changed us, right? And I think, to kind of link it back to what you just said, it's important to kind of realize that we're not trying to go back to normal, to what it was. It's
Hmm.
not going to be what it was because we have changed, right? We have individually changed.
Yeah.
So, how can we find a place of balance with it, right? How can we go back to balance rather than normal, right? Because what was normal before COVID will never be normal after
No,
COVID,
no,
right?
no, no.
And yeah, so I think it is. Let's find your new balance within this reality that we're all experiencing, and with all the changes that you individually have gone through, and all that you have learned from this, honestly, which I
Yeah.
think because of the length of it, even those who were like most reluctant to change have gained some wisdom from it, right? Have gained something from it
Oh,
at this point,
I
right?
don't think you cannot, right? Unless you're
Mhm.
absolutely, blind to the fact, right? That, like, it hasn't affected me. Yeah, it has, right? I mean, and this is where Carl Jung always said, like, others will see the change before you will see the change,
Mhm.
right? So, and and what I have experienced in talking with people and clients and things like that around what is happening is the discomfort comes from when the when your preferences aren't working anymore, right? So what you were using as a technique or whatever you want to, like the way you like to have things, right? Like some people are really, don't do well with uncertainty. Well, sorry, kind of a thing. So they like things planned out, right? They want to know what's happening tomorrow and things like that, right? But when that doesn't, there's a feeling that comes over them, and like Young would say, it's going against their preference and it's not comfortable. So it's like, okay, so what, I need to find more certainty. Well, actually, it's not to find more certainty, it's to become more comfortable with uncertainty.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the balance, right? So an overused preference, an overused strength becomes a weakness,
Yeah.
and you can't, and it's not the strongest that survive. It's whoever can adapt the best. And adaptability is about taking the best of both, and sort of using, the art of living, if you want to call it that, where you kind of, mixing and matching and experimenting and trying this and trying that. um, that's how you create art, right? You just sort of like, well, I got all these three different colors here. What can I make out of that, right?
Mhm.
you know so and trying, experimenting, not relying on your strengths all the time, but looking towards, oh, okay, maybe it isn't certainty that I need. I need to be more comfortable with uncertainty.
Like find strength within your that discomfort, right? How can I find a new strength in this really uncomfortable place that I'm
Well,
sitting,
and
right?
that's the fun part, right? The
Mhm.
exciting part, from my side, is that when you, through action, right, take that on, like getting out of your head. Like, you can think all you want, right, of what the future might be based on whatever, but until you take actual action towards, okay, I'm going to let go of not having a full plan, right? I'm going to let go of whatever. That's taking action. And then
Mhm.
in real time you get to see what is the responses, what are the results based on that. And then you'll actually find out you have that capability, right? You can
Mhm.
let go of certain beliefs and preferences, and be much more adaptable, in the world that's constantly changing anyways.
Constantly. And like as I think we have actually already talked about this in one of the first episodes, that I feel like, this may trigger some people, right? And at the same time, I think it's important to point that COVID has done some really good things for humanity, right? Because it has forced even the most resistant people, resistant to change, right? People that really sit in that comfort zone and will not do the work, will not look at themselves, will not even consider change. It has forced them to sit in discomfort, right? Because I bet there was not a single person that was happy about, being in a lockdown for that extensive amount of time. I mean, there might be some exceptions, right? And in a sense,
Well,
COVID came in and really, really like forced you to do something that was, for some people, was completely against what they would ever choose to do,
yeah,
right? And so, in that sense, was like self-development on steroids, right? You're gonna sit there now. You're gonna sit with yourself. You're not gonna be able to see the people that you love. You're not gonna be able to use any of your coping mechanisms. You're gonna sit there and you're going to have to find comfort in it or just continue to be uncomfortable. And I think that we can be uncomfortable for only so long. And because it went on for so long, it really forced people to kind of really, out of desperation, find a different perspective, find a different way to kind of make it work, right? Become resourceful, more resourceful than they would be otherwise, right? Going back to all the things that make them comfortable, make them feel like themselves and, their usual self, and all the overworking and the, going out and the numbing, like we probably got to do some of that while sitting at home. And at the same time, it really wasn't the same when you remove the social aspect of this, right?
yeah, yeah. No, and 100%, and it, you know, there's something about being alone that,
Mm-hmm.
right, just alone with your thoughts, right? And you know, there was a TV show about, you know, about surviving all by your, like, alone, right? And it wasn't the physical aspects of the program that were getting people. It was here. That's
Uh-huh. Yeah.
that's what's the worst, right? And when you start, because now you're just living with you, like now you get to see you, right? This is you. And a lot of people weren't really happy with what was going on.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and you know, and the reactions, and but when they, you know, the first part of change is awareness. That's
Mm-hmm.
the first
Absolutely.
thing, right? So it it allowed them to be really aware of all their strengths, all their weaknesses. Like if they really wanted to take advantage of the situation and really start looking towards themselves, right? Not outside, because the outside was being taken care of. Like they had no choice, right? In some
No
cases,
choice. Yeah.
no. So, you know, and there was a lot of things that came out of there. There was a lot of surprises that I heard. People got into such a quiet state. They started to realize that the rat race that they were in, they didn't want to go back.
So many surprise. That's such a good point. So many surprises, and in a way, like I think at first we all felt like we gotta sit down with this and figure out a way to survive it, right?
Yeah,
Because that's what we go to,
yeah,
survival. And then we're surprised by all the other things that we discovered by sitting in
yeah,
that space of
yeah.
solitude. That actually these all these things are not working in my life. What am I talking about? You know, like what I was my normal that I really wish I had right now wasn't really healthy, wasn't really something that aligned with me, right? Because the moment that we had a moment to think, had a moment with ourselves, we realized, oh, look at that. That's surprising. I had no idea that this part of my life was not really, like feeling aligned with me, or was not healthy, or was not, like fulfilling, right?
And people started to actually, you know, their anxieties were starting to go, were a lot less. You know, they started, as they became more comfortable with the environment. You know,
Hmm.
and they started to, you know, like, I've always wanted to read or write a book. You know, so some people, you know, started to take some of their, that energy that used to be, you know, to the 9 to 5 or whatever, because they were basically forced to, you know, stay at home and adjust their lifestyle to, you know, I've always wanted to do this, and I've
Hmm.
never had the time to. And then to realize that they had all the time now, that they could actually do some of the stuff. And when they got creative, so the combination of being quiet and creative, oh my goodness. I mean, that is power right there. Because and as you know, as you know, as a designer, right? You know
Hmm.
that there's so much that explodes out of that creativity.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's and I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, some of the things that come out of this. You know, all the different creativity that has happened, all the different, you know, um, you know, taking current technology and how it's being enhanced, and I mean, we're in for some exciting developments, I think.
I mean, there's already been some shifts, right?
Mm.
Like we all know that we don't have to go into the office. We can do the work from home.
There
We
there
have the
there was that
technology to
experiment.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a
Yeah.
massive social shift, especially in a city like where I live,
Oh,
right?
what any
Massive.
major any major
Yeah.
city. Yeah.
And people got to experience what that also means, more freedom, right? Now I can do it from anywhere, right? I'm
Yeah.
not like stuck into a location.
Yeah.
So we also, some people also got a taste of like more freedom and what it's like to live with more flexibility and more freedom. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of good that came out of this. And the other thing that I like to point out is that we went through the discomfort, got out of our comfort zone, and as resilient as we are as human beings, we found comfort, a new space of comfort within the discomfort that we were in, right? Because
Yes.
as the discomfort went on, we found our own comfort level in it. We started reading more. We started learning things, right? We started like shifting our careers. We came up with new technologies or new even businesses, right? So it already has created a lot that wasn't there before, right? It certainly has shifted our mindset, it shifted our perspective on things. And it really has shown us the level of resilience that we all really have,
Oh,
right?
if you have not realized that, right? That's part of that whole awareness. Like you have so far, like like your worst days, and you're still here, right?
Yeah.
And we often get caught in that game of, oh, like it can't get any better. You're like, this is terrible. Like this is the worst case scenario. This is all this kind of stuff. And then next week you go, or a few days go by, and it's sort of like okay, we got it, we went it, we survived. Like, all
We
right,
survived. Yeah.
what's
We
next?
did it.
What's next? Bring it on, right? you know yeah, out here it's a bit of a running joke because we've just we're coming out of the COVID, and this was back in late October, and then we decided to have biblical rainfall.
Yeah, I
Like
remember that.
unbelievable amounts of rain coming down, wiped out our major highways, so nobody could leave. We couldn't get any groceries into anywhere, into the major areas. Um, and and then and then okay, we survived, right? It's like, what possibly could happen now, right? It's like, well, let's have freezing rain. Let's or make some snow, right? You know, and it's like, okay, great. Now what? Well, let's have an earthquake. Okay, let's have an earthquake, right? And now it's like, okay, can we add anything more? Yeah, let's put a new variant in into the
But
mix.
I gotta tell you, it's in a sense, I really feel like COVID has prepared us intellectually, mentally, emotionally for a paradigm shift and like and a massive evolutionary change, I believe. And
If we stay
some of it,
responsive, if we stay responsive, yes,
if we
that's
stay responsive, I want to believe that we will, because I do think that we're resilient, and I do think that while we don't like to change,
yeah,
we when we're cornered, everyone does eventually, right?
yeah,
And at the same time, this has been like slowly kind of growing, already from the tech evolution that we've had with the cell phones that are
yeah.
basically mini computers, and social media, and how much information we have access to. So as a species, we're already so much smarter than we were even just 15 years ago, before this thing called the iPhone came out, right? Before
We have,
Facebook was created,
yes,
right?
yes,
Which was
yeah,
2007, 2008, right? So in that sense, right, we've been really pushed, but we hadn't emotionally caught up to where we have been pushed on a like technological level, and like all like the accessibility of information, and the ability to really connect with other cultures, and like things that we never had access to,
no,
right? So
no,
as a species, we're really massively growing, and this thing called COVID, in my opinion, has given us that extra step that we needed to take in terms of that emotional self-development piece that is needed to catch up with everything else that's growing around us. And let's not even go into the environmental stuff that's happening, as you were just mentioning, right? And being able to kind of respond to that is going to take it's going to take a lot of these pieces coming together in a powerful way, in my opinion.
yes, yeah, and part of that is that really getting back in touch with yourself, being like understanding more about you, right, and
Mhm.
being more aware of, right. And I've often, like I tell people all the time, like your feelings are part of that mechanism. It's that gauge, right? So it's an indicator to say, okay, things need to be looked at, right? Am I going to be responding out of fear? And this is the whole piece around, getting in touch more in a quiet space to see what's real and not real, from your point of view, right? Because there's so much information out there, um, and access to different, just about any corner of the world you have access towards, information. um, it's it's having the skill of discernment,
Mm-hmm.
right, that is so important, in the sense that when you find yourself in fear, that's probably the best place for you to sort of go, well, wait a minute, let me just stop for a second. Am I really seeing this the way it is? And because it's the whole clouded judgment thing, right?
Yeah.
And we need clarity. You need clarity. I need clarity. Like, for me to function properly, clarity is the best place to be. And when I have clarity, I tend to make better decisions. It's simple as that.
I mean, 100%. And what happens when you have clarity, you see something that you weren't seeing before, which is
Totally.
how freaking powerful we are.
Unbelievable.
With the moment that you get clarity and you sit with yourself, you actually see your own power. You actually see and realize that you are the creator of your life,
Yeah.
right? That you have so much more control over your life than you knew you had. It's
Yeah.
just in a different way. It's not through controlling all the details, right?
No.
It's through that awareness, it's through that ability to sit still, it's through that ability to look at yourself and like detach yourself from the ego, is through that ability of trusting, that there is a greater plan, or that, things will unfold in the way that you are creating, right? So I don't think that we really had any idea even intellectually of how powerful we are, right? Until you start doing this work and understanding yourself and understanding the mechanisms of, that you kind of function by, right? And not everyone has done this type of work, but I think that when you overcome something so challenging like we just have, you realize that you're much stronger than you were, than
Totally.
you ever thought you were, right? At the very least, if you don't understand your own power, as the power of your brain and all the stuff that we as coaches obviously really understand, at the very least, you understand that your level of resilience and strength was a lot higher than you thought it was, right? So
Totally.
we have grown for sure, no
Yeah.
matter what.
And the only, the greatest place to, to really experience that is in your actions, like getting out of your head and
Hmm.
doing, right? And just exploring that, right? Because you'll surprise yourself every single time, right? You'll I'm always surprised how my idiot, you know, you know, who thinks has all the answers about, if I do this, this is what's going to happen, yada yada yada, right? It's like, no, you don't. You haven't got a clue, right?
Hmm.
Just like see what happens, because you are resilient. You are, that's our resting place, right? And
Yeah.
the more you experience that for yourself, the stronger, the more confident you become, and you become more
Yeah,
content.
exactly. I was going to say it has grown your confidence level, right? And when
Yeah.
you have more confidence and you realize how resilient you are, you have more courage to take the next steps and to dare more and to push yourself more, right? So I really truly believe that we have all grown, and we have also like been forced to let go of some things that
Well,
were like
long-term
so
planning
attached
is
to.
one of them. Hey, like anybody that's
You
planning a
open
trip
this.
in the end of the next year or whatever. I mean, yeah. What's the
Okay.
yeah.
I love doing this.
Yes,
You know
yes.
that.
Nothing like a New York sunset. And on the west here, I get more of a, well, I have to be on the furthest west coast to get the ocean. Next time I'll throw a picture up there just to balance that out. But
Yeah, show us, please.
the but it it's really, about that confidence and experimenting and experiencing who you really are, right? You'll never find it in your head, and you'll never find it in your memories, right? It's
Mhm.
really about relaxing and just doing the next step. And you don't have to be a big planner or anything. As a matter of fact, the less you do in the planning, like way ahead, right? Set your intentions, set your direction, and then just what's the next step? What's my next step, right? And it's amazing. I was doing a little bit of an experiment this week or this month with Michael Neal's group about getting things done for December, right? And there was a lot of really interesting insights about like my to-do list. I started to look at my to-do list, and some of it were like the end result, like write a
Mm,
book or complete a course, right? They had not There's no way I was going to do that in 30 days, but I could do one or two of the steps that put me towards that goal.
mhm.
So those are the things I think I learned a lot around COVID was expect the unexpected. you know, I really didn't have all the answers as much as I really wanted to. I I I had to live without and just see what happens. And I had a chance of learning that I could respond in a real time situation and
Yeah.
talk about it. So
Well, I changed my whole career, so there you
yes,
go.
yeah,
I went from being a fashion designer with an e-commerce to becoming a mindset transformational coach, right?
yeah,
And the process, the journey along the way transformed myself, right? Like I transformed. I'm a completely different person than I was in December of 2019, which
hmm.
was just a couple years ago, right?
Doesn't seem that long
And
ago though,
it
does it?
doesn't seem, yeah, it doesn't seem that long ago, but
No.
I am so far from where I was then. It's actually kind of nice. That's one of those instances where looking to the past as a way to kind of measure how far you've come, it's very healthy, right?
Absolutely. I mean, nobody's saying not to get rid of your memories, right? I mean, they're
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
They're if you use them properly, right? If you use them to beat yourself up every day, probably not a good idea, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But exactly what you just said, and like, would you ever guessed that you would be, 2 years from now, you'd be sitting here in front of me doing this?
No, I was 100% in my fashion designer identity, and that's kind of when we met, right?
Yeah,
Shortly after that, well, we met a few months after that, but it took me a long time to let go of that identity, right? And it's not that I'm not that; it's just that I realize that I'm not just that, and I don't need to be that all the time, right? I
yeah,
can take that hat, take it off, put it on as I need it, right? And I don't need that hat to define myself and to feel fulfilled, right? I can find fulfillment within what fulfilled me
yeah,
about designing and still do something that fulfills my soul and, like, it fulfills me intellectually, on a social level, and
yeah,
it's aligned with me and my mission and my purpose, which is coaching now,
yeah.
and still get that creative part, you know, fed in a different way, right?
And you pointed out to something I kind of passionate about it is the dropping of labels, right? Like
Yeah.
where we define ourselves, right? And it gave me an opportunity, like COVID gave me an up like to be that self-reflective, to be in a more quieter state, and just to see all the labels, all the things that I was defining myself from, just kind of disappear, and saying, you know, yeah, they describe me, right? And any moment of
Mhm.
time, I can be the creative type. Any moment of time, I can be introverted. I can be extroverted. I could be any of those things, right? Um, when I'm not so much here.
Yeah, and you know what? This shift in identity is something that we really struggle with. Like as a woman, when I became a mother,
Yeah,
I really, really struggled with this new identity. And I mean, like, I go from knowing my profession, knowing what I'm doing, to now being a mom that turned out to be like, okay, this kid didn't come with a manual. I don't know what I'm doing, like, this is a lot harder than I thought, and now
yeah,
this is my label, right? My
yeah,
identity. And
yeah,
so taking that on was hard. Detaching myself from that and stepping back into the, workforce was another really difficult step. And then,
Mhm.
shifting that was difficult too, right? Going from letting go of the fact that that's my degree and I worked all these years for this, and, and that's what I'm meant to do. And being really attached to really something that felt aligned and right for me when I was in my 20s, and that didn't really fit me once I came out of those first years with my children. Like I was a changed person because motherhood really changes you, but we tend to want to just stick to what we know, stick to the label, to the degree, to the thing that I had planned my whole life with.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I think that COVID was the thing that I needed to be forced out of it because it did not feel good. It's not like it felt amazing and I decided to just flip it over into
Yeah.
something else. It just didn't feel aligned anymore.
Yeah.
And being forced to let it go is the thing that allowed me to let something else come in, right?
And that is so important. I was on a bit of a mini conference call with another coach out in the UK. His name's Jamie Smart. I'm going to drop a name off because he's really kind of a smart guy. Um, but he wrote a book called Clarity, and it's really good book. The But what he's done is like he's dropping everything right now. Like he feels that we talked about technology and things like that. There's a shift in that he sees that is happening, and nothing new can happen. He realizes creativity, like nothing, like something has to sort of open up for
Yeah,
something to drop in,
to
right?
come in. Yeah.
And so he's opening up. He's changing his business model. He's doing different things. Like he realizes a change is coming, and for him to be adaptable and ready for it, he has to have the space open for it, right? What I like about what he was saying this morning was he has no idea what that's going to look like, but he's willing
Hmm.
to have the space created to see what more will come out of it, right? And as
Hmm.
we approach New Year's coming up, which is kind of another milestone, which is sort of people look for, it's like, okay, so what am I going to be doing differently, or making things better, or whatever. um, we'll see what happens, right? And maybe next week we can talk a bit about that, or talk about it in the New Year's. But we'll see, because there was so many interesting little subjects that we always come up with right at the very end, right?
Always come up with. Yeah. And listen, New Year is just another day on the calendar. Like I'm not changing what I do personally,
No.
or, like nothing's shifting for me. There's one thing though that this holiday has done, and this, listen, I do think we manifest everything that happens. And I do
Sure.
think that there was a part of me that was like, you know what, if I get this thing, I don't care. Like I kind of want to get it so I don't have to live with the fear, the anxiety around it for the next
Yeah.
few
Yeah.
months,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the other part of it was like, oh, it's another holiday. I really need to take some time off. And look at that. And this morning I had my whole plan to do this and this and this, and I didn't feel good. And I was like,
Yeah.
if I'm not going to take time off while I have COVID, like then I have no right to say anything to anyone. Like I really need to walk my talk here, right? I have COVID, I am ill, and I need to get some rest. I need to just drop the work and like start my vacation a couple of days early. We're not talking like 2 weeks early.
No.
It's really a couple of days early, and just really, like allow yourself to have those moments of rest. And then for me, I'm going to walk into January and I'm going to just do what I've done in December and November,
Step
like
at a time. One step
it's
at a time.
not changing much for me
No.
personally, but I know that people just really see that like change of the calendar as an opportunity to get motivated again. And that
Well, they
typically
use
really
that. They use that as the excuse, right?
is
Kind of.
the excuse. It doesn't last. It doesn't last because the motivation behind it hasn't changed. But if you already have that motivation, if you already have the clarity, like you were saying, if you already have your address on the GPS, right? You're just taking a little pit stop, filling the tank, and then January 2nd, whatever it is, I'm going to keep going. We're on the road that I was going on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So, anyways, hate to end, but I wish you well.
Thank you.
Okay. Merry Christmas. Have a blessed Christmas with your kids, and
Thank you, you too. Happy holidays, everyone.
happy holidays to everyone that dropped in. Appreciate it. Those that are listening on the recording, throw things in the chat about your experience with COVID and some of the lessons that you've learned about it. Thank you, Ken. And
Thank
yeah,
you, Ken. You too.
so
Oh,
yeah,
thank you, Ken. That's super sweet. We love having you.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm alive. I'm breathing.
She's alive. All right. So thank you. We'll catch up with you next week, and we'll
Sounds
we'll uh,
good.
we'll figure out what we're going to talk about.